Hey, small business people and lovers of good stories in general. Welcome to episode 18 of Small Business War Stories. This episode was a part of the Soul of America tour where I drove around the country for 3,800 miles with my puppy and my guitar, meeting different small business people and talking to them. This was in New Orleans, Louisiana. And there I sat down to talk to Allison Burns. And Allison is really, really amazing. She's a complete badass. She started her own payments company and she has a lot of expertise selling to small businesses. So her stories about her own business are really interesting and really cool. But also there are a lot of lessons that she has learned about how to hire people for your sales force. She has some great war stories and horror stories with a W and with an H about hiring. Sometimes the right people and sometimes the wrong people. But there's a lot of learning in this episode, and I learned a lot from her in her experience with her company Precision Payments in New Orleans, Louisiana. This episode of Small Business War Stories, as part of the Soul of America tour, is brought to you by Impact Crates. They are dog crates that they're very strong. They're safety crates. They're made in the USA. They're collapsible and they are very good to transport your dog in your car. You don't want, if there's ever, you get in a fender bender, you don't want your dog flying around to the windshield or worse. So you definitely want to make sure that when you travel, your dog is very safe, and you can do that with an Impact Crate. They have all different types of colors and all different types of options. And if you go and use code MUDDY20, MUDDY 20, that's the name of my dog, you get 20% off. And that's a really, really good deal. And we're also brought to you by Badger Mapping, which is a sales mapping tool. And you can use it for mapping really anything, but it's used by a lot of sales teams to manage their field salespeople. And the app makes it really easy for a rep to manage a territory and know where they need to focus their time, get the highest return, and it optimizes your route for that. I actually did use it for the Soul of America tour to figure out where I needed to go next. And we are also brought to you by Tecovas. Tecovas is a handcrafted cowboy boot company, Western boot company, and that's Tecovas. I wore them every single day, the same pair, around the country as I drove around for the Soul of America tour. They're very, very comfortable, and I got lots of compliments on them. They're very high quality boots at a much lower price than you would get them at a retailer because they go direct to consumer. And you can find them at tecovasboots.com. That's Tecovas boots.com. And like every episode of Small Business War Stories, this one is brought to you by Proven. Proven is a company I started, and we are a leading small business hiring tool. We make small business hiring easy. You don't have to go around posting to all the job boards and figure out who came from where. We make it very easy for you. If somebody ever applied to you in the past, we can help you track back. Hey, where did these people come from? Does this person have do we have notes on them? Who interviewed them in the past? What did we say to them? And that's also really good for compliance issues if you ever get audited for your hiring. You can distribute the job widely, and thousands of small businesses use Proven nationwide. You can get a free trial, and it's a great tool. We use it internally to hire our own people. And without further ado, I want to go into today's program with Allison Burns of Precision Payments in New Orleans, Louisiana. Again, she is a complete badass, very, very impressive, and I learned a lot from her. Let's get into episode 18 of Small Business War Stories. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes. And we are live here in New Orleans, Louisiana, and today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Allison Burns of Precision Payments. Welcome to the show, Allison.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. It's awesome to be here. It's my first time here in New Orleans in, it's been 15 years or so. So it's really cool to be here.
Yeah, we love having tourists visit for sure. Have you gotten to see a lot of stuff since you've been in town?
Not really. I drove in yesterday from Mississippi and I went to a Creole restaurant. I'm in Mid-City, right around there, and some great food. But tonight I'm going to get to probably go to Frenchman Street, which is supposed to be awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be super cool. Super up your alley, like very musical.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about Precision Payments. So how did this all get started? What inspired you to get going with that?
Okay, yeah. So I founded the company in August of 2013, kind of just to meet some ongoing needs that I kept hearing in the marketplace. I was in this industry before I started this company. We're called an ISO, Independent Sales Organization. But basically, to the rest of the world outside of our industry, we're a broker. Nobody knows that term ISO. So the reason I started it was for a couple of purposes. I found that like a lot of people in this industry, a lot of salespeople were, for lack of a better term, slimy, over-promising, under-delivering, not honest, not transparent, and really not customer-focused. It was very transactional, but we're in such a confusing industry that you can't be transactional. You've got to have some kind of relationship ongoing when a merchant has questions, things like that.
So I'm confused. Like I'm a 5-year-old. Explain to me like what you do, like it was a lemonade stand. What
Okay. So do you know when mom and dad go into a business and they pay with their credit card? Have you ever seen them do that?
Sure.
Okay, so they have merchants are charged a fee for their customers to be able to use credit cards. They get charged for that. I'm the person that helps with that. I negotiate and renegotiate those fees and make sure they're as safe as possible to take your mom and dad's credit card.
Got it. And that's separate from the actual physical terminal that you have there.
No, it's all the same thing. So it's the product and the service behind the product.
Okay, so you then sell the system through which businesses can take credit cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so historically we're called the credit card processing industry because that really is our bread and butter, but it encompasses all non-cash forms of payment a business owner would take. So electronic checks, gift cards, and loyalty cards are also deemed as, we consider them a form of payment. So that's lumped in our industry as well.
Very cool. Very cool. And I'm kind of surmising that the reason you got into this is because you were in the industry before. What was the opportunity you saw?
Well, so I would go and I would make these presentations, these proposals to business owners. And because I was an actual employee of a processor, I was captive, right? So I could only sell their products and services. And I only had a certain level of rates I could go down to because they had overhead for me. They had the salary they were paying me, the benefits, et cetera, the cool trips I won for selling a lot of product, whatever.
Sure.
So I would make this proposal presentation to these business owners if I would get to that point, and they would go, yeah, well, this is a great rate package. Does somebody else have something equally or more competitive? And also, maybe we haven't heard of your processor. Let us research a little bit. Like, are they an industry leader? Are they really trustworthy? Are people going to answer my phone call when I have to call that 800 number? We don't have time to research that either. And so I was like, okay, here's my brainchild. I'm just going to do that for them. I'm going to be a brokerage. And there are tons of ISOs. There are something like over 5,000 ISOs in America.
ISO is what your company is.
Yeah, that's an independent sales organization. So to the layman, it's a brokerage, but ISO is our industry terminology for it, ISO.
Yep.
But typically they still stay captive to one or two lines. They get really good and that's their niche. But I don't like that because I had to turn away so many people. And I don't want to take, it's kind of like taking a square peg and trying to fit it in a round hole. Those solutions are not always the best for everybody. So, okay, if I need to find another solution for you, I have no problem doing that. I will. And then let's onboard you and let us work for you. Let us serve you.
Cool. And you focus mostly on small businesses.
Totally.
Why?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're based here in New Orleans, so that's like a huge fabric here. And also because I'm trying to make that paradigm shift in the whole customer service, they care more. You got a small business owner that's wearing all the hats, juggling all the balls.
Sure.
As long as they can punch something off to somebody else and who is an expert and can really genuinely help them, they're a lot more satisfied and you retain that customer longer. When it's these big, huge companies, there are so many layers to go down through. You might want to talk to the CFO, who's the ultimate decision maker, but he has no idea what the pain points are within the company.
Sure. And probably the sales process is quite a bit longer with a larger company too.
Yeah, it is. It can be, for sure. I mean, there are some small business owners too. I mean, so you've got the only thing with small business owners that takes a really long time is penetrating trust. Okay. So if they don't know you specifically or basically have one degree of separation, especially here in the South, then they take a really long time to cultivate and go, okay, now I'm going to switch with you. What could be like a 1 week long sales cycle with them, maybe 2 weeks at most. I literally have people I'm still working on about 2 years in because they're like, let's just talk about some things. Let's talk about some more things, keep following up with me.
That's a great second to, I was going to ask you a little bit more about how do you sell to, so you're telling me about this process of building trust, but let's maybe go a half step before that. How do you generate the leads? How do you figure out, how do you sell to these small businesses? Maybe like soup to nuts, what does that process look like?
Yeah, so I am really heavily involved in networking. As a small business owner, I've been, for about 3.5 years, I was wearing all the hats myself. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to cold call. How can I get the most bang for my buck? And so it was networking and building those trusted relationships so that I had like 1 degree of separation and I had a lot more trust, and it was an easier sell for me to close, but I could still serve them adequately and be customer focused. Okay. We also have like social media and SEO optimization for our website. We have great teams that work on that for us.
What are some examples? Let's get rubber meets the road specific.
Yeah.
Like, can you tell me examples of ways in which you network, like actual events that you go to? How do you approach that?
Absolutely. So I sit on a lot of committees and I'm involved with a lot of philanthropical work.
Such as what?
For Kids Committee that puts on the Zurich Classic through the Players Club of Louisiana. It's our PGA tour that comes. It's actually coming in a couple of weeks here. Cool. It's a huge committee that does that. And we're there for the sole purpose of putting on the Zurich Classic and volunteering for it and giving back to all these childhood cancers, educational funds, things like that in and around the city. But at the same time, it's a lot of the who's who of New Orleans. So that is great business networking. Really wonderful. Rotary, same thing with that. Okay. They are not a networking organization. They're not a buyer's club. Their sole mission is for volunteerism. But in that, you have a lot of these who's who of the city, and you start like building a relationship with them because you're not specifically going to them for a business need.
Makes sense.
Maybe you're doing a fundraising fishing rodeo, or we're doing some work for junior achievement or something like that.
Got it. So those are some of the ones that have worked out well for you. Mm-hmm. Are there some networking opportunities that you thought would be good that ended up not being as good? Yeah,
so there was actually a specific business networking group that I was a part of for several years, and I enjoyed the people immensely in it. And my thought process initially when I got into it years ago was, okay, so this is a B2B only sales group. So this is going to be great. We're networking business to business. However, the people in that group, the companies, they were working more with the big companies, the ones that aren't taking credit cards, but maybe at their store levels or their distributorship levels, they're taking credit cards or they have a need for some kind of services. Okay. And so that was kind of a learning process. It was a very expensive learning process, but I formed a lot of great relationships out of that I still maintain to this day.
But you're no longer involved with that?
I'm not involved with that group.
Got it. Okay, cool. I mean, you live and learn, you refine, the groups that you're a good fit with, right?
Totally. I think that you just have to do everything through trial and error and give it your all and give it your best. And as long as you're taking something away from it, nothing's ever a failure. Awesome. It's just like a dating relationship. As long as you're learning something, you're good. You're good.
There's got to be a story there, but we won't cover it in this podcast.
Oh, we've all been there.
Yeah, exactly. Not me.
Yeah, right? Yeah. No, I am speaking through secondhand experience. I know nothing about that.
Asking for a friend. Right?
Totally.
Awesome. So networking events is one way in which you generate leads. Mm-hmm. You also mentioned SEO. So what are some of the things people come to your website, and what are the terms you're targeting? How are you going about generating those leads?
Yeah. So we have a lot that is driven to our website. We're actually launching a website rebuild. Like, we're in the process of launching that right now, which is exciting. We've built a new tool on there, which is very cool. And that is starting to gain some traction with folks as well.
What's the tool?
It's an effective rate calculator. So basically, a merchant who tells me they don't have time, or maybe they don't have a lot of trust in me. Okay, Mr. Merchant, you can go and drive it. Head to our website. There's a calculator on there. It'll tell you the specific numbers from the specific statement to put in. It'll pop that number back at you, and it'll tell you, is this good? Is this bad? Do you need to contact us for further information?
Got it. Got it. Cool. So that's a good way to provide a service, and then also if people are interested, they can reach out to you.
Yeah. Well, we capture their data from the back end of that. I mean, it wouldn't be a great lead gen tool if we weren't capturing what's your company name, what's your contact information,
and what are the terms that you're interested in targeting for people when people search? What do you want to pop up for in searches?
Yeah. So we're looking. We've got anything from small business, small brokerage, local credit card processing, that kind of stuff. I just had a guy from, I had a baseball Hall of Famer from Oklahoma reach out to me a week and a half ago because he Googled small credit card processor, and we were one of the first ones that came up for him.
That's awesome.
And so he reached out to me from that because that's specifically what he looked for.
Do you actively monitor what terms you're in the top 10 for Google, or like what your average ranking is for different keywords?
I don't, but I have a team that does. So I have an outsourced social media team, and I have an in-house marketing assistant who, they work conjointly and they do all that stuff. And then they bring me into meetings and they go, okay, well, here's all of our research, but here really is the pretty package of the research that you really need to know.
Got it. And what percentage of your leads come, by the way, before we go into that, do you take customers from anywhere? So somebody in North Dakota could be your customer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. We do business nationwide.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So what percentage of your leads today come from your networking events, and what percentage of your leads come from SEO? And is there another channel?
Oh, yeah. We have current customers. We have a great current customer referral program that really kind of incentivizes them to give us referrals, and it's several layers deep. And that is 100% close rate when, that is cultivated and when they give us those.
You know what? Tell me more about that, because a lot of businesses try referral programs that don't work as well. What are some of the secrets and tricks that you've learned to make that work well?
Honestly, I can tell you that even though we incentivize monetarily on our current customer referral program, because our customer service is award-winning and it is so well known that we close leads like that from our current customers. They refer them to us. I mean, I've had people, and I still have people that I've never met in person, and we close over the phone, and that's not an issue for them whatsoever.
And what's your process to get those leads? So do you have a website? If I'm one of your customers and I want to refer a customer to you, how do I do that? Is it just like send me an email, or do you have an official product? Like, how does that work?
Right now it's in an email. So on the new website launch, we actually have a login. We have a portal for merchants to go log in and open up help tickets, but also to place leads in there so that they're punted back to us. Who gets them? Who is this person? Let us have some documentation to follow up on us instead of just a random text message or an email, which does get lost in the shuffle sometimes when we're super busy.
And what's your incentive structure for your customers? How much do you pay them?
So we actually don't pay, well, we kind of do pay them. So for your first referral for, I think it's a year, you get your statement fee knocked off for an entire year. So that can range.
What is a statement fee?
It's a standard fee that even if they're not processing anything, it's the administrative fee. So that ranges anywhere from $10 to $25, depending on the product that they're using and the services that they're using.
Per month?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they'll get it knocked off for a year. 2 referrals, you get it knocked off for 3 years. And then 3 referrals, you get it knocked off for the life that you're with Precision Payment Systems.
Cool. What if you do 10 referrals?
That you just, you'll get a gift card.
You're awesome.
We'll love you forever. You'll get a gift card, and we'll make sure you're very happy.
Awesome. Sounds good to me. So we covered networking events. We covered search and SEO. We talked about referrals. Are there any other channels that you get leads from?
I have a really wonderful marketing assistant who is... he's constantly looking for opportunities for us. So he's been cold calling, especially now that we're in the height of festival season. How can we get more involved in that? What can we do? Yeah. So he actually made contact with somebody that is working a beer, or she and her organization are working a beer booth at Jazz Fest, but they love koozies because it gets them more donations for their organization. So now we are, that's not really a referral for us, but we're able to disseminate 2,000 koozies at Jazz Fest through that contact. Okay. Then he made contact at New Orleans Bourbon Fest, got them on board as a client, and also gave them hundreds of koozies to give out to their VIPs to really get our brand more out there.
Got it.
So that's working.
So more or less, what is the breakdown? What percentage of the leads come from each one of these channels?
Oh my gracious, I don't even know.
Just roughly,
I would say the majority from networking. I would say, 60% networking, probably 20% customers, and then the rest is going to be like the social media channels, the SEO on the search for the website, all that.
Okay. Very cool. Do you see that changing over time? I mean, networking has a limiting factor that you have to be there, or somebody from your business. Are you the only one that networks, or do you have other people?
No.
Okay.
Thank God, not anymore. As of January 30th, I hired my first employee on board, so
Awesome.
I've got a couple now.
Awesome. But still, popping up highly on search is probably more scalable. So do you want that to change over time so that you get more?
Yeah, and that's going to change. So our website, until this new one is launched, which really should be coming up here in a few days, it's just been what I could afford, as a startup. So it was nice, and it was a template website, and it was under $1,000, but you get what you pay for in everything. And so there are some major limiting factors in that have not optimized us in search results unless you're specifically looking for, us or something like that. And the team, the web designers I have now working on this new one, they know what they're doing. They're working closely with the social media people, and I'm hoping that they've really punted us to the forefront of that.
And you got to get small wins. You build something that's maybe not as great as you eventually want it to be, but you get some small wins and you build on that success. So that's awesome.
Small goals get you to the big goal every time.
Boom.
Yep.
Done.
There you go.
Put it on the whiteboard.
Yes, exactly.
Or actually blackboard, right?
Yeah, I can write that in chalk on the blackboard right here.
Awesome. So once you get your leads, how do you qualify them, and what's your process to then reach out and sell?
Yeah, so we have we do something called a fact-finding interview. It sounds very, very official, and it sounds like a really lengthy process, but it's not always a lengthy process. It's just more like a consultative approach. That's kind of how we take it and everything.
Yeah.
So what's your business model, Mr. Merchant? How are you processing right now? Is it the most efficient way possible? Can we recommend something that's better for you? What does your chargeback situation look like? So we want to talk about security and fraud and compliance when it comes to all of that stuff. And out of that's full circle, and we kind of do an assessment, in our heads on paper, and this is our recommendation. This is what, this is kind of the thing we're talking about. Also, in that fact finding, it helps us weed out the people who are kind of fraudulent, who are not on the up and up, and we don't have any of that in person.
Yeah.
But as we are,
how do you suss that out?
By asking those questions. I had a guy come via the website about a week ago or so. I called him back, and he told me what his business was. He told me what his phone number is. And before I even called him, I Googled everything just to see if that was a legitimate thing. Well, I couldn't find the business, and I couldn't find the phone number, and I couldn't find his name. Yeah. And so I'm like, boom, 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 red flags right there. What is going on? I had this conversation with him, and I'm like, no, but it was very awkward. It was very, very weird. He kept asking me, who are you? Where are you calling from? And I was like, dude, you just put this lead in to our website literally 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand what's going on.
Maybe you got drunk and started putting in leads in different financial places.
Maybe. I have no idea. And so the more I am fact finding with him and asking questions, I think he's getting very, very flustered, and I think he's realizing like I'm sifting out a rat. Yeah. And he hung up on me, and I've never heard from him since.
There you go. Probably a discarded lead.
Yeah, definitely. But I feel very passionate about that. I mean, now it's not just me. I've got employees, and I'm still trying to build out the team. Yeah. So I have to protect my reputation as well as what my employees are going to be given as far as here's a lead that you can work, and this will be part of your livelihood.
So what percentage of your gross leads do you qualify as being workable?
Oh, the vast majority. The
80,
vast majority.
90%?
I would say 90%.
90%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. So what happens then? So you guys have your fact-finding call, and then what's the next step?
So then we get all the paperwork in order. Okay, so what do we need to do? Like, do you need to send us statements? We need to analyze. Great, send us that. And more often than not, merchants are like, no, this is what I'm paying. I know what I'm paying. And you're like, okay, great. I'm taking down those numbers. That's perfect. Just for me to see the actual breakdown, can you please send me a statement? And once you see it, you're like, that's not at all what you're paying. I mean, you think one thing, but it's really not what it is.
How often does that happen? That somebody...
I would say 95% of the time.
95% of the time, people don't have a good sense for what they're actually paying.
No.
And usually they think they're paying less than they actually are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Maybe that they were working with somebody and they said, you have super, super competitive rates. And I'm like, you have a 4.5% effective rate and you're doing business face-to-face like you're swiping their card. You should be paying 2% effectively. I don't know who told you that, but they were definitely not truthful with you.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. So Then how long is the process on average? You mentioned that people need to build trust. So from the time somebody becomes a lead to the time somebody becomes a customer, how long is that on average?
On average, I would say a week and a half.
Oh, that's pretty quick.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Because as long as we've known them or know somebody who knew them, or if they reach out to us too, I mean, that's instant trust right there, like starting to build that credibility, and that makes it close a little bit faster as well.
Cool. And what percentage of the leads, of the 90% of the leads that are good, do you end up closing?
Oh, probably a good 70% of those.
That is high.
Yeah.
So 63% of your gross leads?
It's very, very high. And if we don't close them immediately, every single time people come back around. Every single time, as long as we keep dripping on them. Like, hey, just want to...
How do you drip on them? What do you do?
Just an email, hey, checking in, how's everything going?
Yeah.
Or if we're by their business, like just run in with a, $7 box of a dozen donuts. Hey, I just want to bring some goodies by. Mm-hmm. Or, take a bag of like some Precision Payment Systems pins and notepads. Everybody needs those constantly. Yeah. Like, hey, just wanted to pop by, see how everything was, drop this off, because I appreciated talking to you. Something like that.
Okay. And then what do you do on the retention front? So I presume that with a close rate that high, that must mean that there are a lot of people there's probably a lot of turnover in processors, right?
Yeah, there definitely can be, for sure. And that's the transactional versus relational. And because I was going out on my own and I wanted to make that paradigm shift, I was like, okay, no, we're going to be very, very relational. And I don't remember the number right now, but for a competition at New Orleans Entrepreneur Week that I was a finalist in last year for the Women's Entrepreneur Fellowship, I did some research on this. And for an ISO, for a brokerage my size with my volume at the time, my attrition rate was like 2 percentage points under the industry average.
Yeah. What's the industry average?
I want to say the industry average was like 11, and I was like somewhere hovering around 8 or 9%, something like that for the attrition rate, which I'm pretty proud of.
Yeah, 90% retention a year for small businesses is high.
It's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. It is a ton of work, but we are their first point of contact. Everybody has an 800 number with whatever respective processor we put them with. They have it on the sticker on their terminal. They have it in their welcome email, their welcome packet, whatever. Yeah. We ask them all the time, hey, if you have a question, come to us first. We'll find out the answer for you, so you don't have to do that digging. Very rarely will we ask you to get on the phone with these people or for you to go do the digging and find it out yourself. Yeah. That really helps us a lot with the whole customer service touch points and the retention levels.
So with a 60% close rate and a 90% retention rate, you must be growing really fast right now.
Yeah.
What's your year-over-year growth right now?
30%. I mean, I think it's 30%. My CPA is finalizing everything from 2016. But
so what's your vision? What's your goal? What do you want to do with this?
I want to build out the team much more here in New Orleans, and because we can work nationwide, and we have, our current footprint is right now it's regional, but I don't want that to limit us. So I want to go, if we close that dude in Oklahoma, then that'll be the first person out of the South. We have tons of people in Texas here, Mississippi. We have some in Alabama, and in Florida. So that's kind of fun. That's exciting. So my whole vision is to build the team here, build up a sales manager in New Orleans, do the same in Baton Rouge. Then I'd probably like to move, do an office in Mississippi and or in Texas. Yeah, I don't know if I'm looking at a buyout. People have asked me that a lot, if I'm looking to be acquired, if that's my exit strategy. I don't know, probably. But right now...
that's a high-quality problem once you have options, right? Now you're in the business of growing and creating options.
Right now I'm having fun, just like building it out, closing sales, and leading people. Like my heart is to like lead and serve other people, whether it's my customers or my employees. So I'm just having fun with all that.
So along those lines, you came from a sales background.
I didn't. I came from the industry, but I was only in the industry 2 years and 9 months before.
What were you doing in the industry?
In this industry?
Yeah.
I was selling in this industry.
So you were a salesperson?
Yeah, but before that, I'd never sold. I'd never been in outside sales. I knew that I wanted to get into it, but I never did it before. But you did
work in outside sales for 2 years before starting this. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So you talked about leading, you talked about building, about employees, and about your sales background. When you're hiring salespeople, how do you think about that? What are the traits that you look for in a successful salesperson that you think is going to make them successful?
So we have, I have this great sales and this sales training what is she called? She's like she's a contractor for me. That's the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
So she's wonderful. She actually has industry experience for 25 years. She was actually my first boss when I first got in this industry. She hired me at my former processor. So she's absolutely wonderful. We've built out this impeccable job description for outside sales, and we have, requirements and what's preferred and blah blah blah. But when I get to talking with somebody, I'll tell you it's so unscientific, but I go with my gut. It doesn't matter what they have on paper.
Yeah.
I go with my gut and I look for hunger. I listen for the hunger words and I look for the hunger.
What are the hunger words?
Just if, talking about I instead of we. Like, I did it. I did this. I did that. Instead of we. Okay, so you were falling back on a whole team to get everything done together. And I know that's not kind of what we're taught all the time. Look for we because it is teamwork, and I'm very much about
sales is very different. It's a very different.
It is indeed, and so the eyes are about the hunger and the numbers. If you can provide me numbers and you can show that you went out and you made something happen, I can see the hunger there. But I'll tell you, I've talked to several people that they didn't have on paper what I was looking for, and I'm like, you have the hunger right there.
Can you give me an example of somebody that maybe didn't have on paper what you thought was, or what quote unquote they say you should look for, but you knew that they were gonna.
I'll tell you, my marketing assistant. He is 23 years old, and he hates this term so much because he's an old soul. But he is such he's a millennial he's 23, but he's not a millennial in other words.
Yeah.
But this guy just wowed my socks off in his interview process. And he is not outside sales, but he's doing some things, like I mentioned, finding the festivals and stuff. He knocked my socks off, and he was like the only person out of everybody I interviewed for that position to actually send me a thank you card for an interview. I mean, you and I were raised off of doing that. That's like part of the thing that you do.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, this guy, he's hungry for it, and he's respectful, and respectful is going to get you a lot of places. I brought him in for his last interview, and I wanted a presentation because he's obviously going to be doing marketing. So we had a panel, since that's not my specific wheelhouse, and I gave him very, very loose parameters with it. I was like, okay, I want you to tell me how you're going to help support salespeople and how you're going to help build business through lead generation. And I want that to be, in person, and I want that to be on the web.
Yeah.
So on digital. So you go forward. And he just built this entire presentation. He did so much research that he put into it, like legit research. And I was like, done. Hunger right there.
Yeah.
Love it.
That is awesome. And he's worked out well.
Yeah, he's wonderful.
Awesome.
He's so
Without
wonderful.
naming names, can you think of a time when maybe you thought, somebody would work out and it didn't?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that there was this one guy I interviewed, I did a second interview with a couple weeks ago, and I was going to hire him. So our process is first interview for sales. I do over the phone, 30, 45 minute, just a phone interview.
Yeah.
If I like you, I invite you back for a second interview, but that's panel. So that's my sales and training manager, the contractor, and then myself. And so I had a great conversation with this dude, and I bring him in for a second interview. And he starts off the interview, his eyes are so red, red. And he's like, dude, I woke up this morning with allergies. And I'm like, hold on, I could be your boss. You just call me dude. So there's that. And I'm like, I have allergies too. And I get it. I have a little bit of allergies going on today and sinus funk, but I don't look like that. I am talking.
Yeah.
It was like a beat in his eye. I mean, it was that red.
Yeah.
And the way he was talking was just well, and I really like this about selling. And so I'm talking with my, my sales and training contractor afterwards. And I'm like, what did you think about him? And she was like, Allison, was he stoned? And I was like, oh my gosh, that had to be it.
Yeah.
I don't know what was happening with that guy.
Maybe he was real nervous and just wanted to, take a little hit to take the edge off.
And he just went on and on and on about how much he wanted the position and he was looking forward to being hired and, et cetera, et cetera. And I've never heard from the dude again. I didn't even so much as get like a thank you email.
So I did know a guy when I lived in Oregon a while back that was in sales, and he would literally function 100% of the day stone, and he was very good at it. So I have no idea how people do that. But
me neither. Oh my gosh, so crazy. Yeah. I'm like, if you're going to come into an interview like that, I can't put you in front of my merchants and say, go ahead and sell and get this on board.
Lots of allergies.
No, lots of allergies, right?
Oh, it's crazy. I was going to ask you what are some of the oddest and wackiest things you've seen in your business, but that pretty much takes a cake right there, having a person show up stoned to an interview.
That's one of them. Yeah, that's my best guess. I never really asked him if he was stoned. I don't think that's a legal thing, but I can ask my HR.
You probably good to not. Can you tell me about a time when things didn't go well in your business, when things went sideways, and when you was like, oh shit, I have no idea what I'm going to do about this, and how did you solve that?
I feel like that happens on a very regular basis, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Whether I am in danger of losing a big client or two or three, which happened a few weeks ago, or
what happened there?
One of them, they didn't realize like, hey, we can go back to Allison and we can talk to her about any issues that we're having and maybe get her to revisit some rates if we're thinking about like somebody else can do a better job for us, or they can drop our rates even lower. And so I did have to take this merchant and drop them to bare bones. I mean, our income really took a hit from them, but I'd rather retain them than not. And they're a great referral source, and they've been longtime clients.
Okay.
The other lady who literally the next day told me that she left, she is, I don't know. I mean, she's just one of those kind of merchants that everybody's got clients that some of them are like, you're very high maintenance. You're not always worth the income that we make. And so, it was trying to save it for a little while, and then it was like, oh, screw it. And what is done is done. And then we have to keep trucking. We have to keep getting more people on board.
Along those lines, have you ever fired a customer, basically said, this is probably not a good fit, and moved on?
I haven't fired a customer. I hate to say it in those terms.
Sure. Have you ever decided to part ways with a customer because you may not be the best fit for each other?
There was one who kind of early last year, he's super, super high maintenance. Okay. And so, like I said, we take on the customer service role. You have any questions, you ask us and we handle it for you. This dude had the same question every 90 days because he was forgetting to save his password reset crap in his email. Just build file folder for it, stick it in there. And so every time I had to get on the phone, I had to work on trying to reset his password. And it just happened to be this one day I was like back to back in meetings, and I was like, okay, Mr. Guy, so here's the 800 number. I need you to call them. He was pissed from that. Like a week later, I get a notice that he's deactivated his account. And I'm like, I call him and I'm like, what are you doing? We give you such great customer service. Every time you have salespeople, because he has a really high turnover, we're in there. We're doing donuts. We're training. We're there all day. What are you doing? You made me call an 800 number once. And I was like, I didn't fire him. He fired me, but I didn't even fight for it. I was like,
all right, cool.
I was like, cool, buddy. And then he was like, and I said, I just want you to be aware you're getting an early termination fee from your contract. Oh, well, that's not fair. I've been with you for years. And I was like, wait a second. You want to hear what's not fair? And I was like, I don't bill by the hour, but I bet you if I added up all the time I've spent on doing the same one thing for you every 90 days for literally like a year, that it would probably far outweigh your early termination fee. Precision Payment Systems has no problem with eating into early termination fee if we did something wrong. However, this is on you. So you can take this and do whatever you want with it. And he's like, I think there's legal grounds for this. And I'm like, I'm sure there is. It's $300. Whatever.
That's a half hour of a lawyer's time. So
and now everything is hunky dory peachy keen. I mean, we're joined on social media. We always have been. He likes a lot of my things. I'm like, you must be past it. No.
Oh,
I know.
Okay. Hey, like Billy Currington said, beer is good, God is great, and people are crazy.
People are so crazy. Yeah.
Cool.
And he's not even a chick. So.
I didn't say that. What would you say is the number one lesson or piece of advice? So a lot of our audience, they're small business operators or people who maybe are thinking about small businesses, or just people who love all the good stories that come up in this show. What is your number one piece of advice that you would give to people?
There's no such thing as no.
Okay.
No is not a word. There's just find another way. It's gonna come around.
Okay.
You're gonna find another. If you want to make it happen, no is not. It just erase it from your vocabulary. It's not a real word. Like it's just not a thing.
Love it. What about the small business community? Like other people that are running small businesses, do you have a good relationship with them?
Yes, I do. And what I love is it's really growing. I mean, there's this big influx with, New Orleans Entrepreneur Week and that being built up so much. And then Silicon Bayou being built up so much. So you've got all these entrepreneurial minded folks coming in and these techie minded folks. And I think that part is really cool. And then we brought in Collision last year. GNO Inc. brought in Collision, which is America's biggest tech conference.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that?
I am not.
We took that from Vegas, which is kind of cool. Like we competed with Vegas and we took that from Vegas.
Okay.
They did so well last year here that they signed contract for I think 2 more years. So they'll be here beginning of May.
Awesome.
So that brings a lot of folks into the city. I mean, we're constantly doing stuff like that. So I think that we're really, really doing a lot to cultivate our entrepreneurial space. We have lots of incubators now going on. I love all of that stuff for
Very
sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love it. Is there anything else that you want people to know about your business? So are you guys active on social media, you mentioned?
We are,
Are you on Facebook? Do you guys do Instagram?
Mm-hmm. No, not on Instagram. Who wants to look at a credit card terminal?
Yeah, I don't know.
We thought about it. We had many roundtables about this, and then we were like, there's nothing... I think our business is sexy. Other people don't find our business sexy. What are we going to post pictures of?
So you're mostly then on what's your website?
PrecisionPaymentSystems.com.
Okay. And then yours, if you go to Facebook and it's
Facebook, we're Precision Payment Systems. LinkedIn, we have a company profile under Precision Payment Systems. But under Twitter, we're Precision_Pay.
Okay. Very cool. Well, congratulations on all your success. It's been great to have you here in Small Business War Stories. You've taught me a lot, and I think hopefully you've taught, there's been other folks that have been able to take something from this.
Thanks.
So
this has been fun.
Awesome. Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Right. Thank you for listening to Small Business War Stories. If you enjoy the show, share it with a friend, or you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or on our blog at blog.proven.com. If you have an idea for us, we'd love to hear it. Please email us at podcast@proven.com. See you next time. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes.